All right, everybody, welcome to our first test run here at the Friday night call-in show. Me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be a fantastic show here. We're going to listen to viewers call in tonight, and we're going to hear from you. We're going to bring up some topics. Whatever it is you want to talk about is totally up to you. Let me know exactly what you want to talk about. We have the chat live here. I can see the chat. So once you start coming in, let me know. Holler out in the chat and let us know that you're in the building. And we'll get ready to jump into some really good stuff here on the first run of the Friday night call-in show. We're running this through a new program as well. So this is awesome. I was totally excited to be able to get down to some business here with some clear audio, some good video as we wait for everybody to come in. I know when we posted this, it actually created a second stream, which was unintentional because I guess we went past the start time. So it did not like the original post and wanted us to start a new stream. So hopefully people recognize that as we go ahead and get over here. Anybody that's out there, jump over to the other stream. If there's people in the chat, let them know that it's actually going on over here. And we'll go ahead and get that deleted. We do have the call-in line, the call-in number, as always, which is 856-843-3444. That's 856 the dig. And I love to see how that's going to work here tonight. So definitely want to make sure that we get some people here up on the stage. Okay, yep. So we got some people coming in. I know the other stream had you guys over there. So I see you trickling in. Let me go ahead and get some of you guys listed up here. I see Adam B and also the Jaquetta out there as well. This is the first run. We're doing the test run, essentially, of the Friday night call-in show. Running through a new program, and it's going to be awesome, actually. Can't wait to get some people on stage here. Let me go ahead and get the appropriate show up here so I can get your chats here on the screen. I'm going to post the link to come up on stage here in a moment as well. All right, I see you guys out there. Let me go ahead and should be able to bring your chats up here. Okay, yep, chat's working. So go ahead and post what you want in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about here tonight. It's the call-in show. This is for you guys. I always put together, the shows for the definitive UFO news show. This show is for you guys. You guys can call in. The call-in number is 856-843-3444. That's 856 the dig. I'm actually going to post a link as well for you to go ahead and jump on stage if you'd like to do that. Let me go ahead and see if this will work for me to post it out there. Yep, there it is. Just drop the link in the chat. So you guys are more than welcome at any point in time to go ahead and jump on the stage. Try it out. Let's try it out. Let's see how it works. Or you can just simply call in. The phone line is right here, ready to go. Right here, ready to go. So let me know what you want to talk about here. We got Adam B saying changing of the season and the tilt of planet Earth. Okay. What do we know about that? What's going on with the tilt of the Earth? I know it's getting hot here in California, so I can tell the season's changing here. How we may be affected. Well, I don't know how to necessarily answer that. I'm sure if the tilt of the Earth, which I've heard, it actually has already gone off its axis before in history, right? And so that actually affects weather patterns all over the world. Places where it used to be hot now would be cold, and vice versa. So definitely something I don't want to live through or experience. So not anything I'm looking forward to, Adam B. Hopefully that's not what's going on here. I was watching Jeremy Corbell. Let's see. Adam B says, I just got a phone that goes through PC. Could I try calling? You definitely could. It shouldn't stop you from calling the number. If you're within the United States, it's 856-843-3444 or 856 the dig. If you're outside the United States, you just have to dial 001 first. But it should definitely let you call in. I'd love to hear your perspective on changing the season and the tilt of planet Earth. I'd love to hear what you know about that. Maybe you can teach us. You can teach us here. And what I'm going to do here is, well, put this in studio mode. That way I can see anyone that comes up on stage here that'll join the back. All right, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. Anyone wants to join in, just let me know. Call in 856-843-3444. That's 856 the dig. Also, the link is in the chat if you want to go ahead and click that. Should take you through a couple of steps for you to join a room. Once you do that, I'll be able to see you back there, and we can go from there. One thing I guess we could start talking about here. I was watching Jeremy Corbell on the Weaponized podcast. Well, I guess it's the most recent episode. And it had Christopher Sharp on there. And it was just one thing that Jeremy Corbell brought up that was interesting to me, and it's something that I talk about often, is the way that the government talks about the phenomena, or Arrow more specifically, right? So you'll have Arrow stepping forward and saying things like, we don't have proof of extraterrestrial life. Jeremy was pointing out that, it's a way for them to give a response that's not necessarily untruthful, because they don't know where the things come from, because they could be here from Earth. So if they're here from Earth, then they wouldn't be extraterrestrial beings, which means them saying that they had no evidence of extraterrestrial presence would actually be not a wrong answer. And that takes me back to a conversation that I was having about the drones. So we have the drone flap, for anyone who didn't know, back last year. Was it November of 2024, going through January, February of 2025, couple months straight. And they classified them as drones, quote unquote drones, right? So to the average person, when you say drones, they're thinking quadcopters, which we already know, and they know that as well. And I was like, okay, so if you have the reporters out there, people who are, at these press conferences listening to these answers or these responses, none of them went a step further to say, okay, drones, but are they extraterrestrial drones, or are they, non-human drones? Maybe more a more specific way to ask it, especially with the wordplay, right? Because I think you could say drones and not necessarily be lying about that, right? You can call them drones. I had a UFO sighting where we filmed 47 objects at once. 47 objects. And I'll end up showing that here soon, maybe on a different show. But 47 objects at once that all disappeared. We're talking about clear blue sky. It was August 28th, 2022, here in California. 108 degrees at the time. About 12 in the afternoon, a little after 12. Not a single cloud in the sky. 47 objects. They were in a cluster, and they were kind of like a ball of mosquitoes almost. They were like in a circle and kind of mingling in and out of each other just really quickly, really quickly. I thought they were birds. My girl was like, "Nah, they're not birds. They're just look at them. The sun is shining off of them." So I stood there for a minute. I looked at these things, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" Okay, so I ran in the house, grabbed my camera, came back out about 30 seconds later, and by the time I came out, they were They had moved out of that ball, out of that cluster, and started flying directly overhead. And I filmed them. And then as I'm filming them, I'm also, looking away from the camera to look at them directly. They were these spheres, these white spheres, oblong sort of shape, and they had these black pipe like objects sticking out the bottom. 47 of them, identical, essentially. They flew overhead. They got to about the 1 o'clock position in the sky, and then they all disappeared at one time completely. As I did research on that, because it blew my mind, we sat there for a moment. It was like, what was that? What did we just witness? Then it hit that, okay, this is something very strange. It's obvious that this isn't something that we made for it to be able to disappear like that. Did some research on it, found out that these objects have been seen all over the globe. A lot of times they're seen in Mexico by the hundreds, and I had video, and I still have video depicting that I'll end up showing on a future show here. By the hundreds, just meandering through the sky. Usually, these ones are ones you see in the daytime. Like a lot of encounters that I've seen were in the daytime. So I checked MUFON, I checked their records, I filed a report with MUFON. In a lot of the cases that MUFON had taken on these exact same objects, they came back as unknown or not being able to determine what they were. And I think these are probably some of the most common things you might see up there in the sky. But the point of me saying that is that for the most part, we don't really, you get a lot of reports of orbs and spheres and kind of smaller objects, right? So those technically, you could consider those as being drones. So if Arrow says, yeah, we've seen these drones, they're essentially talking about these same objects that aren't from here, but they're able to get away with it by just saying drones. And so to the average person, it's like, well, what are we talking about? So it's just drones, right? I think a lot of these things are unmanned probes and essentially drones. Kitty Cat is in the building. I'm gonna catch up on the chat real quick here. I didn't see you there. Did you catch her? Yeah, yeah. So I think a lot of these things that we see in the sky are actually drones. I don't think most of these things are man craft because when you talk about man craft, you have individuals that are talking about they're seeing these huge triangles, right? These huge triangles overhead. They're seeing disc shaped craft, and we're just not seeing that, right? Or not a lot. So I think essentially what's going on, and the New Jersey case backs it up, that there's a lot of these things, probes, likely unmanned, that are being sent out from likely the ocean, is what it seems like. That's the common denominator here where I'm at in Southern California is a UFO hotspot. It's close to where Captain David Fravor had his encounter with the Tic Tac. And as I always tell you, I'm about 140 miles from Catalina Island, which we is an obvious hotspot, and then Mexico as well, in South America. So this whole region of the world, has reported just many, many UFOs over the years, and I you have to ask yourself what's going on because I'll tell you what the objects I filmed, they were flying in a formation like birds essentially in kind of like a V a little bit, but then they were merging and doing all this other thing. Some of them were disappearing and reappearing as they flew overhead. um and I don't know what they were doing, and that's the whole thing. Especially when I first saw them, they were in that cluster, and they were like flying amongst each other, like in and out of each other. Like I don't know what that is, and then what is the purpose of these things? you know, meandering around the world. Like, what is the actual purpose? Are they actually probing things, actively? So did I witness them actively probing? And then kind of what's that all about? We got to figure it out because, as we talked about before, if there are if there's proof of aggression between our military and then some of these objects, you got to ask yourself, what is that based off of? And then where does that go? Are we on the brink of something crazy, right? If you watched a show we did a few weeks ago, we kind of talked about that, right? There's evidence recently of us being aggressive towards them, and then there are reports of them also being aggressive towards us. So if you have proof going both ways, even if it's just that moment, that's aggression between the presence and then human beings, and it's recent, right? I think the New Jersey drone sightings, could be related to that. Truthfully, when you look at it on the face of it, because it's so, I'm not going to say I don't believe in coincidences, but at the same time, you have a situation where we fire a Hellfire missile on a UFO, it just bounces off of it, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, there's a standoff with drones over the United States just every day for 2 months. You, is it just by chance that those two incidents happened so close together? I don't know, man. But I feel like this year is the year of disclosure. I really feel like, there's a lot. And I know we say this every single year. We always have our predictions going into New Year's. This is going to be the year. Uh, Disclosure is right around the corner, sort of situation. But it really feels like the momentum is there. And, you know, the last show that we did, unfortunately, the audio was pretty bad on it. But when I listened back to it, but there's a good message there. If you listen to that show, if you could bear the bad audio, we were basically talking about, NDAs for the people who hold these NDAs, and then, their willingness to break an NDA, right? And not without going over everything we talked about, just giving you a brief kind of synopsis. It's any conversation that I've had in the past about, hey, why don't, you know, if it was me, I would break the NDA. And why won't someone step forward and break the NDA on behalf of humanity? It'd be, the wonderful thing to do, right? For not just humanity, but for the individual's own family going forward, grandchildren, great grandchildren. So it would make a mark in history for someone to step up and do that. But then I always get the response, "Oh no, NDA, they're going to go to jail. Nobody wants to risk that." And the last show that we did, we kind of went over what the NDAs covered, and then also talked about how as information gets out into the public domain, the more information that gets out there about UFOs and comments being made, like recently with President Obama saying, yes, there's aliens, but X, Y, and Z and X, Y, Z. I think the first, as I said on the show, I think the first part of that statement was the real answer. And then the second part of that was, let me kind of, backtrack on it and kind of back it up with a generalized sort of comment. And then you had Trump come in right behind him and essentially confirm without confirming that he had crossed the line of divulging classified information. So everyone took it as true. So, and the whole point of the last show was, well, if you have, you know, people in the know on the executive side making comments like that, confirming certain things, then it allows you to challenge NDAs based on new information, right? It just gives you more room to challenge certain things within an NDA. that maybe you couldn't do prior to those statements being made. And it just, as time goes on, it's just more and more opportunity. The more information that comes out, it just puts the ability to potentially challenge an NDA in kind of like a place where you have more room to argue, right? And it's just the whole thing was, would somebody be willing to step up and do that? I would do it. I would definitely do it. I would definitely be the one to do it. And I'm not just saying that. I know a lot of people, oh, no, I would definitely be the one to do that. I would step up and say, hey, I'm going to put it on the line for humanity. Let me go ahead and see what you guys are saying here. C-Tech. Mateo. Yeah, C-Tech was there. Well, he wasn't there, but I pretty much contacted him when it happened. You know, I put it out there for and we're talking about my sighting here, kind of backtracking because I saw the comment here. But I immediately reached out to Mateo here, C-Tech, and sent him an email along with a couple other people attached to it. And, it's kind of like, dude, I just saw something crazy. And then I put it out. I didn't, jump to any sort of conclusions. I went ahead and put the video out online on X, let people vet it, right? Mick West ended up taking a look at it. And you know what his response was? Balloons or birds? Anything you send to Mick West is balloons or birds or parallax. But I'm like, okay, those things can't just disappear into thin air. I'll just tell you this: 47 objects at one time, clear blue sky, sun at high noon. There's no mistaking, there is no, oh, maybe the sun was at an angle, or maybe, it was obscured by clouds, or maybe none of that. For me, it happened to be the perfect set of circumstances to have a sighting, film it, and literally not have a wonder on, was I mistaken? Like I literally saw the things with my own eyes, and I actually redrew them. We'll get down to doing some of that stuff here soon. Let's see. Okay. You left a voicemail, Adam. Let me check that here. Oh, I do see that. Appreciate that. All right, let's play your message and see if we can play it.
Howdy. It's Adam B here. I'm just trying out my new PC telephone while you're live, and I appreciate the patience. I think this is interesting technology and how to use it. Thank you so much. Look forward to talking to you. Have a good day, sir.
Awesome comment there. And yeah, and I appreciate that, Adam, because you actually allow me to kind of show, because I talk about this phone number all the time, and it's a number you should have in your phone. Like, if you watch the show, you should definitely have this number in your phone, which is 856-843-3444, or that is 856-THE-DIGG, because it's actually there for exactly this very reason, where you can call in 24/7 anytime you feel like it and leave a message, just like Adam did. And it was awesome to be able to hear Adam's voice there and get some perspective on how he felt about the phenomena. And yes, I agree, Adam. Definitely interesting times that we're living in, and it's unbelievable. I pinch myself all the time. I pinch myself all the time, and just trip on how crazy it is that this is actually real. Like, this is, whatever they are, these things are actually here, and it's just crazy to consider that. It's just mind blowing. It's mind blowing, right? And it just, the thing is like when I hear skeptics, right? Like, Michael Shermer, right, is one. Guess he does the Skeptic magazine or whatever that is. Um, and other skeptics as well that just say we just don't have any proof. There's no way that these things could get here. Or these things could be here. We agree that things are probably out there with all the billions of inhabitable planets, and then I listen to these people like you are absolutely wrong. Like you are absolutely wrong in that perspective. And the thing is that you know it's just going to be a matter of time before those same individuals look up and see something themselves, and then their minds will then be blown.
Call from.
Mateo.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hey, you're on the line.
I'm on the line. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're on the line. Thank you for calling in, Mateo. How you been, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Glad to hear from you, man.
Likewise. Likewise. It's good to be here, buddy. Good to be here.
Yeah. So, okay, we're talking about UFOs, the whole situation. And I'm glad to hear from you, first of all. So, I definitely, let me jump back here for the other caller. I will have to jump back here to the main camera here. Okay.
Yeah, the video unfortunately was really slow and it was not manageable.
And I'm not sure.
But hey, no worries.
I'm not sure what that's all about. We'll definitely get that bug worked out. I'll do some more testing on it. Glad to get someone on here live so we could have a back and forth. So yeah, I know you've been watching everything. I haven't heard your opinion in a while, so I just catch me up, man. How are you feeling about everything?
Man, I don't know where to begin. I've been busy as always, working like a fool, but I've been tuning in and been team rewatch for most of your videos since I'm not always around when you're doing live. But tonight I got back in time and I jumped on for sure. But no, it's a lot going on. I'm really at a point now where, and this is probably why what I wanted to talk to you about. It is really, we're all kind of confused right now as to how this is all going to turn out and what it actually is. There's no doubt that there's a there, right? I think we're all past that point now, even though we haven't gotten that confirmation. Disclosure is one thing, but getting the confirmation is something that you and I always talked about, which would be a wonderful thing. But even without that, we all know there's a there. But what is that there? And where are they leading us? That's the big question. Is it a psyop? Is it extraterrestrials from another planet traveling to our star system? Is it extra dimensional, ultra dimensional beings who are human beings from our future? Is it something very, and this may sound strange, but the whole religion aspect, especially what Disclosure Day, that our soon to be new favorite movie that's coming in the summer kind of alludes to. What does all of that mean? I'm at a point now where I'm like, man, I don't even know what it could possibly be. And as we've all heard more than once, it's going to be something that none of us can really comprehend, right? We're all trying to put nuts and bolts around it, as you and I have talked a million times. And we're like, well, yeah, the spaceships are this, and this is the technology, and yeah, we want to we can reverse engineer it, and they must be traveling this way, and blah, blah, blah. But from what it sounds like, we could be all wrong. So anyway, I'm open-minded, and that's kind of how I'm at right now.
And I'm with you. I'm with you. And as, if anyone doesn't know, Mateo's been a part of this channel since the very beginning. He was actually co-hosting here with me on the Social Dig, and hopefully we'll get him back on here because miss your face, man, and your opinion. You always had a great opinion on things, as is evident here right now. Yeah, we've gone through a lot of different things. And we've always taken the middle of the road approach. That's the one thing. So we know it's not from here. We know it's likely not human. But there's always the possibility that the government has developed something that we're just unaware of, and it can disappear into thin air potentially. But until and I've always said until they can show me something that can do what I saw, then I have to say it's not ours. Now, not saying that it's an extraterrestrials technically, because I don't know who actually owned it or who pilots it. And as you just stated perfectly, we're talking about it could be interdimensional. It could be something that's here, been here the whole time. It could be something very religious, and it's that's the part. That's why we're doing these shows, because we don't know those answers, and we like to know. And I don't even think the government knows, but I think when you have a bunch of people who are, when we talk about ontological shock and how that'll affect people in religion, you can kind of get a glimpse of that by a lot of these people within the government holding secrets that are saying that it's something religious, that is demonic, and they don't want to touch it because of something like that, right? So even they are afraid to face what it is, and then it kind of gives you a glimpse on, like, if they can't handle it coming from the side of religion, then I'm not, too hopeful for a lot of the others. It could very well be any of those things, and that's part of that's why I love being able to talk about it, because we just don't know, and it's fun trying to figure it out.
I remember the show where we talked about middle of the road. We
Mm.
did a whole show about that. So I'm so happy you brought that up again, because right now that's kind of where I'm at. I'm taking all that to heart and just shooting down the middle here because we don't know. And on the religious aspect, there have been discussions in across all of the channels. I think it may have been on Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's channel, where they talked about how some of the people in the Pentagon were really embracing the religious aspect of the phenomenon, which I also found interesting. I mean, like I said, there are some pretty extreme assessments going on around everywhere that I'm not sure what to make of yet, but I think we may find out something more soon. I mean, we need somebody to come forward with the goods, and what those goods are, we don't really know yet. You and I've talked about this. Is it somebody from Lockheed Martin or some non-government agency that has the goods that really needs to step forward? Because the government, we can't really trust, right? We can't trust that they're going to come forward and be honest with us. They have an agenda. They have, power and security to protect. So they have to be very careful. The government contractors, though, they're just keeping the secret so they can continue to make their money. But one day, maybe somebody will come forward from there with the real goods, as I'd like to call them. So who knows what's going to happen this year? But it's going to be an interesting year for sure.
Yeah, and as far as the whole religious part, just to put it before we put a cap on that, you were still here on the show when we saw that turn happen. Like it was, I don't remember who it was. It could have been Jeremy Corbell, could have been Ross Coulthard, one of the two. But it went from nuts and bolts overnight to a sharp right turn into spiritualism and religion. And I always asked, I wondered why, like, what do they know? Like, what did they see, or what information did they have that made them take go from nuts and bolts to overnight, considering interdimensionality and then also religion. It was it's something that still concerns me and shocks me. But moving on a little bit, because I know there's a lot of stuff obviously we got to catch up on, but there and a lot of things that have happened here. So Ross Coulthard comes out and he talks about a UFO so big that they had to build a building around it. Now, this would definitely be something I would love to hear from you about on that subject. What did you think when you first heard that? And we'll talk more because Rep Burleson, I played it on I think the last show. Let me disconnect that. Okay, so I think it was on the last show that he was saying that the location, which a lot of people were saying was in South Korea, this little round disc-shaped object, when you look at it from Google Maps, you look down on it, it looks like a saucer just sitting in the middle of the forest, but what it actually is a radar assembly that connects with like jumbo jets. It's part of the flight system out there, so it's not that. And recently, he had actually gone on the show with Dr. Stephen Greer, and they asked about that UFO so big. Rep Burleson said he's going to attempt to go to this other country where this place is and see if he can get more information on it. What did you think about it when you first heard Ross Coulthard make that statement? What was your first thought? Hold on, I'm gonna need you to say that again. Go ahead and start again.
No, no worries. That statement came out. That story came out a very long time ago, and Ross Coulthard was the original, person who brought it to light. But as you just pointed out, he came out more recently and talked about it again and was questioned about it again, and then Rep Burleson came out and talked about it. And the whole South Korea thing was kind of it for a while, and then I heard some talk about it potentially being Greenland, which was, people were saying, well, maybe that's why Trump wants to take Greenland. That was mostly conspiracy theory, I think. But I'm not sure what's going on here. It's whether it's true or not. And if there is a building built over this thing, well, there are a lot of buildings in the world, so, it's going to be very difficult to find it via satellite, even though everybody thinks they can. But hey, if Rep Burleson knows what country it's in, that helps narrow it down. Is it South Korea? Is it Greenland? Is it someplace else? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know how much. I think that's probably real, but I don't know how much credence I would put in us being able to find out about it ever. It's pretty wild. I don't know if you heard all of that stuff that I have heard too.
No, yes, definitely. And I was just going to add to that. I would say if it was a UFO so big they had to build a building around it, it would have to be an archaeological dig. Like, it would have to have been something that they found, that they dug up. I don't see them having time for maybe something that recently crashed to be able to build something around something so big you have to build a building around it. So I'm thinking maybe it's probably some sort of dig, something that they found, and then obviously it's the public wouldn't be alerted of such a thing, so they'd have time to go ahead and build something around it. Because my whole thing was, well, how could they build a building around this thing without anyone being aware of it? And the only thing I could think of is that it was part of a dig. But Rep Burleson essentially confirmed that South Korea was not the location, because he said he couldn't really say much due to the information given in the skiff, but he did state that there is a site that people are talking about online, and he was like, it's not that. So for me, and here's the thing, here's the dilemma, right? That's why I did the last show and talking about breaking NDAs, and I've just been on this thing, and I'm not just saying this, I understand the whole relationship between journalists and their sources, right? protecting their sources, and then I do understand, the importance of an NDA and abiding by it, when it comes to national secrets. But the whole position that I took on that was that, is our UFOs government secret? Like, how, because you retrieve a craft, is it then yours? So is it property of the United States government? I would believe it still belongs to the extraterrestrial. So how would you have the ability to take that and just claim it's yours, and then also classify it, and then also say, hey, this is covered under the NDA that you signed. You can't talk about this. And my whole thing was like, would there be a person out there, that one person, the heroic person who would step out there on behalf of the world and say, you know what, I'm going to challenge this NDA. I'm going to say what I need to say because everyone needs to know. And I came to that because it bothered me that, but I understand what the Ross Coulter are saying. I know where this thing is. It's so big, and I just can't tell you because of protecting my sources. So you have people, and it seems like a grifty sort of thing to do because you have an answer that could put this thing to bed, to rest, and you won't say anything about it to protect your sources. If you were to go ahead and just say it, I don't know if journalistic integrity would matter after that. I think everything changes once that information comes out. How do you feel about that?
That's a really good point, and I like your description, grifty, because that really hits home as to what might be going on here, which would be really unfortunate. Just to backtrack just a sec, I like your theory about the UFO possibly being part of an archaeological dig and a discovery in that way. I hadn't thought of that before. That's kind of a different idea, and I that makes a lot of sense, because that would imply they don't want to move it so they don't damage it, and maybe they can't quite unearth the whole thing anyway, so they're covering up what they're working on. But yeah, once again, how could that all be happening where, it takes a lot of people to build a building? How can all that be happening and not a single one of those people people are willing to step forward? And then, back on your point about Ross Coulthart and everybody else unwilling to divulge their sources. Yeah, that you've got that, and you've also got some of the chatter that was happening lately where a lot of the whistleblowers, and I'm curious if you had heard about this, heard or perceived it this way as I did. A lot of the whistleblowers were being claimed or, talked about as possible disinformation agents. Even David Grush, which was, kind of unfortunate, but, made you think about it. It's like, well, we all know that Lou Elizondo was working as a disinformation agent for the government. So that's not a surprise if he was, doing what he did for that reason. But it seemed as if all of the other whistleblowers may have been getting couched in that same, group. And I'm like, man, if that's the case, then who can you believe? So that's where, back to your point, like, when is one of these people who work for Lockheed Martin or who is building the building around the big UFO going to just come out and say, here it is. I'm directly involved, and this is what I know. I'd love that day to happen. I think we're all hoping for that day to happen. But man, it sure seems like an impossibility right now.
Well, here's the way I think about the whistleblowers, because I did a show about that too, a few months back, about the whistleblowers and how frustrating it is, which actually led to me doing the NDA show the other day. But it was just I was originally, because I've been harping on this for at least the last year. Like, whistleblowers coming out with this information, you're always excited for the new whistleblower. You're like, what is he going to say? What is he going to divulge? And then they always walk right up to that line, the line that they can't go past. And some of them, and I understand that. So I'll say David Grush, I think, for me, has been one of the more open whistleblowers as far as, and I don't know if you consider Wells on a whistleblower, but David Grush for sure, I think, has given as much information as he could, like squeezing juice out of a rock, right? He's given as much as he can up until he just can't say anymore. There's other whistleblowers that I couldn't say that for, and I didn't want to call out names at the time, but like Jason Sands, right? And I was like, the question was, are you bound by any NDA? So are you restricted, as far as the information you're given, or are you hiding behind the NDA? Because my point with that was just like you stated, there are, I said nothing is 100%. That means some of these whistleblowers have to be not telling the truth. Like it just the averages have to say that that's a fact. So some of the ones that we've seen, some of these guys are not telling the truth, right? And the ones that I was pointing to were the ones that were being kind of vague, right? Because they know, because they have an NDA, that the idea is that they can only go so far, so they don't give real details, like in the case of a Jason Sands. And it just seems like, okay, either you're restricted by an NDA or you're hiding behind an NDA. And if you're hiding behind an NDA, that means you can make up anything you want to. You can make up. He said he was on a base or something and was driving and saw this extraterrestrial like walking down the road and had on military gear and things like that. But he was being so vague.
I saw that interview.
He was being so vague and gray about everything else when it comes to questions being asked. And I think there's some of the guys that are hiding or behind the NDA and knowing that this stuff can't be validated, and so they're just telling stories. But then there are people, I think, whistleblowers, and I'll just say David Grush. Some people think differently, but I think David Grush is one of the ones that's telling everything that he can tell truthfully. So kind of going to your point there.
Yeah, no, it's a confusing soup out there right now. Who do we believe? Who's hiding behind their NDA? Who's being a disinformation agent? It's really tough to tell. That's where the frustration comes in, and I know everybody feels that. Here, let me switch gears here. I want to ask you for your opinion on something.
Let's go.
What do you hadn't? I don't know if you covered this one yet in any of your past. I don't think you have in your past shows. But what are your thoughts on the whole 2027 event, or what might be happening there? What are your thoughts on that?
Be more specific. I know a few people have thrown around that 2027 date.
Yeah, there's supposed to be something happening, like either a visit or an arrival, if you will, of some sort of extraterrestrial armada or spaceship, or who knows, right? They're talking about some big revelation that's going to happen, or some big worldwide event that's going to happen in 2027 that has to do with the phenomenon. And it's recently came up again. And, Ross Coulthart was in that mix as well, along with some others. And it's unclear, but, that date is getting closer. It's 2026, believe it or not. And I was just curious what you thought and what you had already researched on it.
And so I've heard, but who was it? Because I can't recall who. I know there was a couple of different people who were kicking around that date, but who did you hear kicking that date around? Like there was a person out there that was preaching 2027, and I can't recall who that was. Maybe somebody in the chat might.
Yeah, it was the ex-CIA agent who we haven't heard a lot from lately, and then Coulthart got in there. What was his name? John
Ramirez?
Yes.
Oh, I'm torn with John Ramirez.
He kicked it around a while ago, at least a year ago, and then it just recently seemed to come back up again. That's why I bring it up.
Well, here's the thing. With dates, the thing with dates, and we've seen dates come and go, and that's been my whole thing. When people talk about dates, I try not to hang my hat on a date, and because the thing is that what does it say? Broken clocks right twice a day. So if people keep
Hmm.
throwing dates out there, it's eventually going to be true. Someone is going to actually get it, and it could be 2020. I'd say based on how things are feeling right now, that 2027 could be, and maybe not necessarily because John Ramirez knew it was going to be 2027, but it just so happens that with the momentum, it could fall in 2027 when this thing really just breaks open. And some of the in that impending incoming thing, right, which you got even more heightened by the Three Eye Atlas recently coming through our neck of the woods. At least got people talking about the fact that something that was didn't look normal was coming through our solar system. Maybe it was alien tech, and maybe it was on its way here, and people really had to take a moment to think about that, and then that kind of validated some theories and conspiracies that some other people had been speaking about over the years. And I think 2027 just kind of falls right into that. I never been a huge. I know John Ramirez was with the CIA. Truthfully, I haven't heard much I listened to him a bunch of times, even over on Space Out Radio, and it just I haven't really had any moments that where I felt like, man, John Ramirez is on to something here. And I know that's probably blasphemy to some people out there because I know some people just say, no, John Ramirez is the truth. But I don't know. I think he could be one of those guys that you're talking about that are out there putting out misinformation. But, as far as the something happening in 2027, I think it's possible. And a show that I did do recently was it had to do with a show that I actually did a year before, like in March of 2020. It was before the election. So March 2025, where I'd done a show about, just a thought experiment on what would it take for a democracy to blur the line into like a communist situation. This is new president was not in office or elected, didn't even look like he was going to win at the time, but it was just a thought experiment. And I just pointed out that if something were to be impending or imminent on its way in, like an asteroid or nuclear war or the extraterrestrial presence making itself known, that these would be things that overnight could turn a democracy into like an authoritarian situation. And it ended up coming true. And the thing is that it scared me a little bit too because no one, when I did that show, no one was talking about that. No one had brought it up. No one had thought about talking about that. And then it kind of manifested itself into reality. And then check this out. This is the other part that scared me and made me feel like 2027 could be a thing is the whole drone situation, right? So the New Jersey drones just happened to park themselves over the United States for 2 months straight. Nobody knows what it is. The top government officials don't know what it is. The FAA doesn't know what it is. All these statements coming out is not adversarial. It's not us. And so who does that leave? And so we saw a moment in time where the government didn't have any answers. They couldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden it kind of just died off and went away. I think there was a helicopter. I think you told me, yeah, there was a helicopter crash over the Hudson that happened that kind of
Yeah,
took the
and that
shift off of that.
distracted everybody.
But from that moment forward, there still was no clear answer on what that was. And then we moved through the year, and now we have this object coming into our solar system through our atlas. So it's like, oh my God, was that relate? Could that be related to the drones? And now we know it wasn't. Well, I don't know technically if we know it wasn't, truthfully, because they say it was a comet. It's leaving now, but it was still really weird. But even going further to the UFO hearing later that year, we had the video released with showing us firing a missile on a UFO. And the date of that video was October 30th, 2024. And that was like 3 weeks before the drones just showed up over New Jersey. So I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. That shows that we're firing on these things. As proof we're firing on these things, showing aggression. And then Tom DeLonge, we talked about this a while back. Tom DeLonge told the story of the UFO or USO that popped out the water. and shot a helicopter. So we have proof of aggression coming from both sides of the table. Just so happens that UFO Hellfire missiles October 30th. 3 weeks later, the drones just
That
show
was
up.
in Italy, right?
The
The
Tom
helicopter
DeLonge thing,
incident?
yes, in Italy.
It was Italy,
But
yeah.
we have October 30th where we are firing on a UFO, and maybe the UFO did something first, and then we just retaliate. And that was the video shows what we did afterwards. But the point is that after the whole, uh, the Tom DeLonge situation, you have us firing on a UFO, then drones show up over the United States for 2 months straight. No one can explain it. It's like a show of force almost. Leading into this year, coming back around, Three Eye Atlas is on its way in. We don't know what it really is, and then it just kind of comes back to the table that all of a sudden we're in this authoritarian situation where now the thing I thought about, they're putting police in the streets. They're trying to get Greenland. They're trying to turn Canada into the 51st state. So I did a show recently talking about, if you look at it, if you didn't know, because on the face of it, just looks like one man, a president, trying to overthrow democracy. But I said, what if that same guy, or what if you were president and you had knowledge of an asteroid coming in, imminent disaster, or imminent nuclear war, or an imminent disclosure of the extraterrestrial presence, instead of waiting for the ontological shock to hit, would you proactively start doing some of these things and putting things in place to kind of control or mitigate the situation, knowing that something was oncoming and imminent? And then the day that we did that show, they had the stepdaughter, or not stepdaughter, daughter-in-law, President Trump, come out and say, we talked to him before.
Laura Trump, yep.
And he says he has a speech that he's going to be doing at some time in the future. So it's like all those things show that maybe they know something is incoming and imminent, and then that thing could be coming by 2027. So long way around to kind of answer your question there, but just connecting the dots for anyone who didn't watch that show, it makes sense, man, that something like that could be on the way.
Indeed. I like your theory there. And, if you really think about it, your authoritarianism theory, if you really think about it, it wouldn't take much at all to force or to cause the entire United States of America to have to shift into an authoritative state, martial law, everything. All it would take would be some sort of serious war situation, threat of an asteroid possibly destroying the Earth, threat or reality of some sort of extraterrestrial presence showing up. It wouldn't take much at all for the government to have to basically, put the hammer down, and to keep control of society, they would have to basically invoke martial law. And it wouldn't really take much for that to happen. So your idea that, are they preparing kind of behind the curtain before they have to make it obvious that they're going to have to go authoritarian on us in order to keep things in control? Are they preparing behind the curtain for what they already know is coming? And that's a good question, and they very well may be. Obviously, they know they can't just say, okay, we're going to put the hammer down on everybody right now and not tell you why. They can't do that. They have to, the event would have to happen before they would do that. And society probably would accept that to a certain degree, right? Look what happened during COVID, right?
Exactly.
During COVID, we had to basically follow rules that we would not have normally had to follow. And, we did it because initially everybody was afraid of dying because we didn't understand the disease. But, it wouldn't take much with any one of these other scenarios that you mentioned for that to possibly happen. So,
Well,
it's all It's all interesting stuff.
And here's the thing, right? Because I said at the end of the day, it could just really be one man, just a crazy guy, just really having a goal of overthrowing democracy. It could literally be just that and have nothing to do with extraterrestrials. It could have nothing to do with the impending big event like an asteroid or being on the brink of a nuclear war. It could just be a crazy guy doing crazy stuff, truthfully. But
Hmm.
the other thing that really just made it more compelling was the fact that when you have a president like that making crazy calls and doing crazy stuff, usually the people around him say, "You know what? I'm going to resign. I'm going to step away." And you'll see resignations usually happen around that core when people disagree with things that are being done, right? And so when you have a moment where there is no political future for this president, it's you can't run anymore, right? So, but you're surrounded by people that have political aspirations going forward. So, do you put it all on the line for this one guy doing crazy stuff, or is it more likely that you understand what he's doing because you sat down and had the conversation that there's this imminent thing that we have to get ahead of, and why people it seems like people are just okay with it that are around him, like you guys, he'll be gone, you still have to run for office, whatever office you have in your political future, right? So would you throw that all away for a crazy guy doing crazy stuff, or do you feel like you're doing your duty as a patriot standing in because America's about to face something really crazy in game changing upcoming? And the whole thing that just blew my mind about that, because just that by itself gives you time to think, like, wow, you know what, that is something that possibly could it's very plausible. But the thing that kind of even took it further was that same day. That's when they made the statement about, oh yeah, he's had a speech that he's gonna give at a later date. And I think this kind of all just came to light because of President Obama coming out saying, yes, aliens are real. And then Trump responding. I think had Obama not said that we would never know that Trump has this speech that he's intending on doing sometime down the line.
Absolutely.
And so is that still all connected to all that, man? And it's still, until proven otherwise, it's something that you have to consider. It's at least on the table. I think it's more likely than a crazy guy doing crazy stuff and people just letting him do the crazy stuff. I think it could be definitely, in preparation of something. It would make sense, and that's why I said the Greenland and the Canada thing. Okay, you're creating a perimeter, a border, a barrier around the nucleus of the United States. Because in an event like one of those things we talked about, you're going to have an influx of everyone trying to get over here, right? So it just makes sense. Not saying it is what it is, but if you lay it out that way, man, and you look at all the things that happened, starting with that Hellfire missile, and then the drones that no one could explain, and then bring us all the way back around to where we're at today, it just makes sense, man.
It does. I'll say the one thing that we need that would resolve all of that, and people would follow in line and do what is necessary. The one thing we need is transparency, and we're not getting that. To your point about the fact that the speech that Laura Trump talked about, that supposedly was already prepared and to be delivered on July 8th, the 79th anniversary of Roswell, we would never have known that unless the whole thing with Obama didn't happen. And so they're not being transparent. They are working something behind the scenes. And is it a power play, or are they going to come clean when the event goes down? We don't know.
I'll be truthful. Even with all that aside, I had made a statement just based on the president not going through the best times, right? Just at a total low point in his tenure, and I think I was over at Space Out Radio at the time, and I was talking about this, but I said it would be a perfect time for him to pull the UFO card out and play that card. Yeah, Marco Rubio, who's part of the UFO committee, as your Secretary of State, is right there. I know he's telling you about UFOs every day. I know he's informed you on all everything that they figured out and found out up to the. So I know you're hearing about it, and I know he's right there. And that's another reason why I'm like, okay, the UFO guy is Secretary of State right there, the president, and he's watching this crazy stuff happen. So maybe he's the link to them knowing that something crazy is on the horizon. And it's just, when you sit there and think about it, it just makes sense. But I always said that Trump is going to pull the UFO card and play that card at some point, and it would be smart for him to do because it probably won't take away fully from the Epstein files, but for sure it'll distract a little bit, and that's what he's looking for, right? As far as that goes, but at the same time, it would be UFO confirmation. It would be UFO disclosure at the very same time, while because it wouldn't be a lie to come out and say the extraterrestrials are here or something crazy is here and we don't understand it. It would be the truth. It wouldn't be a lie because we see that for ourselves, and I think it just would work in our favor for that to happen. But I don't know if this 2027 thing is on the way, if it is coming, this imminent thing. It scares me when I put all that together. Because it sounds plausible and those dots do connect to each other. It became a scary thought at the time because I'm like, what? I can't be right about all this stuff. I can't be. I mean, what do I know? I don't know anything about what's actually going on. But hey, these things are connecting and they make sense. And then when you look at the big picture, it's kind of scary because it does indicate or make it seem like they do know something that we don't know. And then what is that thing, right? What is that thing that they know? And remember, always hung on this as well. Elizondo talking about somber. Remember the somber statement years ago?
Mm.
Somber. I've never forgotten that. And it's all part of this whole thing. And we've talked about the people who think UFOs are love and light and they're just here to help us. And we talked about there's a potential whole other side to this conversation. And there were people
Mm-hmm.
at Spaced Out Radio who told me that UFOs are all friendly. Like there's no proof that UFOs have been aggressive towards human beings. Well, I think the proof is out there. The proof has always been out there, but I think it's been further confirmed that something's going on between the military and these extraterrestrials, and 2027 is when we might see what that thing is.
Indeed, my friend. Well, lots to look forward to for this year. Hey, I don't want to tie up the phone and keep everybody else away, but
Yeah. No, great talking to
love
you.
talking to you. Everybody, no, great talking to you. I want to let some of your other viewers and callers maybe get in as well tonight. But you and I could go on forever here, but we'll definitely do it again. And awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Always like your take on it. Never stop watching for that reason. And I think that's everybody else feels the same. So good catching up with you, buddy. So why don't we'll probably wrap it up and let somebody else have it.
For sure, and I'd love to have you back, man. I saw the social media. I saw the you got things still. I saw it, man. So we gotta talk. we gotta talk. You got my number. I got your number now. Let's talk more and make some plans, man.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Take
appreciate
care.
you. Have a good rest of your night. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. Guys, that's Mateo, right? I mean, if you go back in the archives, guys, you'll see we've had a lot of these same conversations, and it's like we never missed a beat, right? And and so hopefully we'll be hearing more from Mateo. But I'd love to hear from you guys as well, right? This was a test run of this show to make sure the phone lines work. Obviously, the on stage situation isn't working. So what we may do is, for now, until we figure that out, we may just do the phone option. But I want to figure out how we can get it like in a queue where we can get multiple calls in at one time instead of one at a time. But one at a time might work as well, as long as the conversations that move the needle. Looking at let me see. I know you guys have been chatting there as we've been going off about UFOs, but um, Mike Jones. Let me if I could bring that back up here. Mike Jones. It won't let me. Let me see. I'm trying to bring your question up, Mike. He has the right idea. He says, take a moment to like and subscribe. We'd appreciate that because that's what we do on this channel. We have conversations that move the needle, and sometimes those are tough conversations, right? And it's generally not the type of conversation that you hear on other shows that talk about this UFO phenomenon because we are here trying to, on the search for truth and transparency, trying to get to the answers. That's literally what you saw here tonight, speaking back with Mateo. And if you check out any of the other shows that we've done here, that's the thought process. And that's the reason why we choose these certain type of topics in order to make, maybe just at least put some perspective out there that has you walk away from a show thinking about, yeah, you know what, that's plausible, right? And if you tell me something, or if you come on the line and you talk about something that sounds very plausible, then that's how we, steel sharpens steel, and we get to a point to where we've thrown out a lot of ideas, and maybe one of these ideas sticks. It ends up being the thing that answers the question to what it is that humanity has been trying to do with this subject all this time. That's all we like. Stories are cool, right? But it's all about getting to the answers, right? It's all about the answers. If we aren't having a conversation to move the needle, then we're spinning our wheels. We're wasting our time. There's stories are for books. Stories are for entertainment. But what about those tough conversations that get you closer to the truth and at least get you thinking in ways that you didn't come in thinking? And always, my goal is with the show, with any of these shows that we do here, is to make sure that when you come into a show, you leave with something to think about. So you leave with more than you came in with. And I hope we accomplished that here tonight, even as we went through some of the technical difficulties with the chat guys. It's been fun. It's really definitely been fun. But let me answer a couple of these questions here because I know Mike Jones was saying, what if the UFOs are the modern version of the Nazi saucers of World War II? Or are there human and extraterrestrial versions? Truthfully, Mike, I'm not a reverse engineer guy. Like, there are some people that will die on the hill saying that we reverse engineer, we cracked anti-gravity. There just is no proof. There is nothing that we've seen come out of the Black Project that shows that we have harnessed any technology like that. So I don't know how and why people jump so far to that conclusion that no, the anti-gravity stuff we're seeing, no, that's ours. We made that. There's nothing out there, and if there is, besides the widely known studies that they were doing back in the 1950s, specifically on anti-gravity, we don't know what came out of that. We just know that they kind of went secret on it, and that's what has a lot of people believing that we actually cracked it. That's not enough to make the determination that human beings have cracked anti-gravity. And as far as reverse engineering goes, I put it like this. If we don't have the elements and materials that they use to make their craft, they come from other places. Scientists will tell you any materials that they have are on the atomic level. We just don't have the capability of manufacturing. Then what makes you think that we have the ability to rebuild something like that, right? If anything, if human beings have anything to do with the things we're seeing flying in the sky, I'm more on the side of maybe we figured out how to fly some of the crash retrievals. Now, that's totally plausible because we know that we've retrieved craft. So potentially we've figured out how to pilot one of these things, but I don't think that we have the ability to reproduce things that they've produced in some other star system. So with that being said, if there are human beings flying into these things, we didn't make them. At the end of the day, that's until we have proof that we have been able to create something like until we can see it. I there's more proof of the extraterrestrial presence than there is that human beings have cracked the ability to have cracked anti-gravity. There's more proof that extraterrestrials are here. I'll say that again. Than proof that human beings have the ability to reproduce anti-gravity and reproduce alien craft. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. And Woo Riders DG, Rob, did you see that guy Alistair in this alleged sphere? He got not buying it. People will do anything for 20 seconds of fame. I don't know about the spheres, man. You know, the silver ones. I don't know. We obviously saw the Mosul orb though. The Mosul, I think that was broad daylight, and it was literally a silver sphere flying through the sky. So I don't know. But the one that guy particularly has, I don't know, because obviously, who was it? I don't remember who came out with the sphere that had the intricate designs on it, and someone looked at that and said it was like a gas tank from something here on Earth. I forgot what it came from, but someone identified it immediately and said, no, it comes from this. It's a gas tank. And so you're going to have people out there that try to do that. And but once again, if human beings have anything to do with UFOs, it's because we've retrieved the craft and we can now fly them. Which, if they can fly, then maybe there's the possibility we figured out how to do it. But we're not making them. Yeah, I saw that as well, Woo Riders. Hillary Clinton also spoke yesterday and said she was asked by Congress about UFOs and her Epstein deposition in Congress. Yeah, she said they kind of just out the blue asked, and I wonder who did. If it was, yeah, and we don't care about political, Democrats, Republicans. We don't really care about that. You leave your political identities out the door when you come in here. I don't care. Politics is politricks for me to me, so it doesn't matter really. I guess who asked. But it just in the spirit of trying to pinpoint what representative asked would be intriguing to know, because I wonder if it's someone on the UFO committee and why did they ask her? Did they have some information that maybe they were briefed on something, and maybe what was the origin of wanting to know that information? Yeah, well, there's no proof that we're aware of. Well, yeah, we can say that about a lot of things, Paramore. Um, Many more reports of individuals having contact with extraterrestrials and messages and seeing craft in the sky. Never seeing a human being flying one. Let's keep that in mind. And it just isn't there. So people can speculate all they want that humans have done it. Prove it. Prove it. Right? That's what skeptics say about aliens. Prove it. Prove it. Prove human beings have made reverse engineered craft. That's how I feel about it. Woo Riders, always been waiting to say this, but we'll say it here. Someone who grew up with me and Desiree is retiring now, or from the Navy, July 24th, and he worked in special projects, so we'll be getting off record soon info soon. Awesome, awesome. Once again, hopefully somebody just says, you know what, I'm gonna just tell people. I'm gonna tell where it's at. I'm gonna tell what I saw, what it was, and give all the information, because you got to go through court. They can't just put you in jail immediately, right? You got to go to trial. You got to do all that stuff. You can beat the case. You can beat the case. Let's see. Hillbilly Herb, know nothing. We Riders DG on his involvement with UFOs while working over 20 years in the Navy. Awesome. C-Tech Mateo, Gary Nolan investigated one of the spheres. Not much came from it. Yeah, and I think he like scraped a little piece off of it to have it tested. Yeah, we haven't heard anything from that. Mike Jones, there's a few declassified OSS pics of German Foo Fighters, aka saucers, on the net that have World War II pilots saw and reported. Yeah. I when it goes back to the DIGG, I think is what that was called, the bell, you know, it did the Nazis supposedly had. I think I'm just feeling like crash retrieval, right? That's I don't. We definitely did. We weren't reverse engineering any. For sure, back in 1933, we could barely build a plane back in 1930. We could barely do a lot of things back in 1933. So, did they have a crash retrieval? Very likely. Very likely. Hillbilly Herd, playground tactics, rabbit in a hat tricks. Oh, I like that. I like that. We Riders DG. He did say consciousness is definitely involved with projects he's worked on. We'll bring more info as soon as I get it. Yeah, yeah. Kitty Catty or Riders DG, Hillbilly Herb, Fire. We got Kitty Catty Whack out there in the crowd. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate showing up. So, yeah. You know, the like I said, after the last show, in the streaming service I was using, had the audio, you know, depending on the streaming service, and I was looking to change to a different streaming service. So I figured, you know what, I'll take it and put it in my own hands, and you know, took all the assets, put in OBS, and we got some really crispy streams. We got to figure out the coming on stage thing. So, like I said, once again, maybe the coming on stage will kind of delay that for a little bit, but we'll still take phone calls, as you saw. Phone calls are perfectly fine, and we could definitely do that. Maybe just take one person at a time. So be prepared next time, guys. We're gonna do this again next Friday, and we're gonna have a flawless performance next Friday. Also, since I've loaded the UFO show into the system as well, I'm gonna schedule one of those for this week. I really want to redo the NDA show because the audio was so bad. So maybe I won't redo it exactly, but maybe we'll, you know, at least talk about some of the important parts, because I really feel like the information that we talked about, you know, is good information to have access to. We kind of went over the whole what an NDA is, the wording, what people, you know, might be afraid of, and reasons why, you know, maybe you shouldn't be afraid of an NDA going forward, because once again, once information comes into the public domain and you have presidents coming out making certain statements, then there's certain parts of those NDAs that can now are now up to be challenged, different legal angles that you could take to potentially get from up under it. And as we know, the UFOs in the skies are not classified. So there's no way they should be part of an NDA. And maybe that'll work itself out as well. But, you know, when this all happened back in, you know, we'll at least go back to Roswell, you know, NDAs, there weren't people out there talking about this stuff from inside the government. There weren't any confirmations of different things. So NDAs were airtight. And, you know, nowadays there's so much information that's come out from the government inadvertently and just comments being made that it just opens up the argument. So maybe we'll redo that show. I don't know. With that being said, guys, fantastic time here tonight. I enjoyed you guys. I'll leave this show up, but I'll, you know, when we were working through the chat, I'll probably get rid of that part. I'll probably chop that out. So at least you get the conversation that we had with Mateo here. Again, awesome stuff, C-Tech Mateo. We're going to go ahead and I'll talk to you soon, bruh. Anyone else? Guys, take the number down, man. I'd love to hear from you next week. I'd love to hear your perspective. You guys are definitely putting cool things in the chat, cool things to talk about. You know, give us a call so we could talk about it and everybody can hear, you know, your thoughts on the particular topic. And with that being said, that's why it's just a Friday night call-in show, because it doesn't have to just be UFOs, right? We are going through some crazy stuff right now here in the world. So, as long as we don't get, stand on political sides, and then, there definitely are other things we could talk about as well. So definitely put the number in your phone and consider coming on out next week, joining the conversation. You guys, it was a pleasure. Let's see. Mateo C. Tech saying, thank you, Rob, and all the mods. Good night to everyone watching and in the chat. Until next time, ... Mike Jones, did you hear Epstein was involved in debunking alien abduction? No, I didn't hear that. But Mike Jones, we'd love to hear that on the next show. So let's go ahead and get you prepared for the call in. And we'll definitely just do call in for sure next week till I figure this thing out. And we'll have a great time. So the call in show is back, guys. Let everybody know, far and wide. The late night call in show, the Friday night live call in show is back in the building. We writers prayers for USA military servicemen and women, also innocent people in Iran. Yeah, we love not war. Love not war. That's where we'll go ahead and end it, guys. Thanks for coming on out to the show. Give yourself a round of applause. For staying tight, sticking through the first show, guys. Have a great rest of your night. I am out of here. Take care.